Hey, this is Robbie with Techno Photography. I'm about to go down to the Sony Store here in San Diego where we'll get to play with a Sony A7 and A7R, the new full-frame kind of NEX size cameras, mirrorless. I got to hold one a while back and I wasn't quite sure about the ergonomics, so tonight I get to go play with one for a little while and we'll see what I think after that. So hopefully I'll be able to show you a little bit of video while I'm down there, but let's go downtown, have fun. Well, here we are at the Sony Store in Fashion Valley Mall in San Diego. I'm about to go inside and see what they have in store. Hopefully this is fun. Well, I just finished there. I took like 200 pictures. That was pretty cool. Camera works good. There's a lot of buttons on there that are kind of strange to figure out. The focus point selection is a little bit difficult. Just if you want to choose the focus point between each shot, it can be difficult. The model was beautiful, so I think I got a cool shot with the compass. I will show you that right now, and I'll show you a few others. I took a couple high ISO shots, and I expect them to be spectacular. So, let's go take a look at them. Alright, so I just got home and imported these images into Lightroom, and I'm quite impressed with the quality. These are pretty much straight out of the camera, no modification. And this was shot using the Zeiss 55mm 1.8 close to wide open. And at 1:1 you can see depth of field is very shallow, but incredibly clear. When I could get it to focus properly, it's a little bit difficult to choose the focus point on the fly. It's easier on the DSLR with the little joystick to choose your focus point. On the A7R, you need to press a couple buttons in order to actually get the focus point to shift. And sometimes if you accidentally press or twist the wheel instead of press on it correctly, it goes into all kinds of weird menus that you have to actually look at the camera to figure out. So that was a bit annoying. But for the most part, the camera felt pretty good. I still prefer the feel of a DSLR in my hand. The A7R just does not feel right ergonomically. I can't physically reach the wheel in the front and the shutter release without repositioning my hand on the camera, which is very strange. Looking at some ISO shots, I just did a couple really quick ones. This is ISO 6400, and there's a little bit of noise, but not bad at all. ISO 12800, still, that's not bad considering there's no real noise reduction enabled in Lightroom right now, 1:1 resolution. And ISO 25600, still 1:1 resolution, no noise reduction. That's better than my A77 at probably ISO 3200, so I can deal with that. I was really happy with that. One other thing I wanted to show, the specular, or the bokeh in the specular highlights of my model with the 55mm Zeiss at close to wide open leaves these weird, like, white circles. And I was getting that in a lot of images. Anytime I had the model out of focus and the white specular highlight would just create this weird bokeh halo thing, which was kind of distracting. But for the most part, all of these images look fantastic for not very good lighting that we had set up. We had a beautiful model. It was a fun little shoot. So there you have it. I got to play with the Sony A7R for probably a half hour, 45 minutes down at the Sony Store. And then I showed you a few examples. All in all, this is a really cool camera. It feels solid in the hand. The lens was, I only shot with a Zeiss 55-1.8. It felt solid, felt like a pretty good lens. A little bit smaller than I was used to, but by design, that's what they're supposed to be. So who would this camera be for? A professional that wants to take it out on the road. If you do a lot of travel photography, this would be perfect. For me, it's a little bit less than perfect. I do a lot of stuff in the studio. I always shoot manual, and I choose my focus points. Those three factors make me favor a traditional DSLR much more, which is why I'm waiting for the next A99 iteration, which will hopefully be out soon. That's my next camera to purchase. But back to the A7R. So in the studio, The maximum flash sync speed is 1/160th of a second, which is not quite as fast as a typical DSLR that does 1/250th, so you won't be able to cancel out quite as much ambient light. That's important for me. I shoot manual exclusively, and the front wheel on it and the shutter release is up on the top of the camera. And with my hand, when I have a grip on the camera, I can't use the front wheel and press the shutter release without physically altering my right hand grip, which I find pretty strange. In the studio, like we were, I was able to pretty much leave the shutter speed at what I wanted and just use the shutter release, and it was fine. And this would also be fine if you use aperture or shutter priority, primarily because you would only use one dial. It wouldn't be a problem. But if you're using manual and you're adjusting shutter speed and aperture with pretty much every shot, potentially an issue, at least with my hands. I don't know, someone else may have a different experience. And choosing the focus point. So autofocus was very fast and very good when it was just using all of the points. But I like to choose specifically what focus point I'm using, especially when I'm using a 1.8 lens, because depth of field is microscopic. So with the A7R, there's a strange menu setting where you put it so you can choose your focus point. But then in order to actually use it, you can't just use the buttons on the wheel in the back like you would the joystick on the A77. I programmed one of the custom buttons to go into that mode. It was a little bit convoluted, so whenever I wanted to change my focus point, I had to press a custom button, press the middle button on the dial, and then I could use the direction on the dial. But if you accidentally twist the dial, it goes into a whole different menu, and it just gets weird. So that was a little bit frustrating, having to change that all the time. And when you have it on a specific focus point, it tended to hunt a lot, trying to get focus. We had consistent light, LED studio lights in there that were moderately powered. So everything was fairly well illuminated, but it was still hunting quite a bit when you had one selected focus point. When you opened it up to all of them, focus was instantaneous. So something to be aware of. But all in all, I really like that camera. I'm actually considering renting one for a week when I go to China next month, so I may have a little bit more hands-on experience with that when I get back. So I hope you found this somewhat useful. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Otherwise, like and subscribe. Thank you. Bye.